One, you need to master an agile framework. The 10th one would just be mastering runtimes and monitoring and stuff like that.
Something between 80 and 100,000. I can't remember. Was that your range? Your salary range? They have the certifications, but they're just not getting the interviews.
The thing is, the way I see it, the jobs are out there.
Hi guys, welcome to the village. Today we have a part 2 with Julian Krill. Julian, for those who don't know or haven't seen the original video, Julian is a DevOps engineer. He started off as a systems administrator in the IT space. And yeah, he's been working now for about 4 years as DevOps. So the main thing that we are chatting about today is the roadmap. Hi, Julian. Welcome back to the village.
Hello. Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
We're good. We're good. Thank you so much for coming back to have this chat with us. You left us hanging, you know. We had a lot of questions, and we are glad as a village that you are back. Without wasting any time, Julian, everyone wanted to know what is the roadmap. Because we know we spoke about CompTIA A+ and N+ for you, but what did you have to do to get into DevOps?
So DevOps is more it's a role you can achieve once you have a certain amount of particular skills, right? It's not something where you can just go and study one thing and now you're a qualified DevOps person. Because to work in DevOps, you need to be quite proficient in a lot of things. And for example, you need to know how to work in an agile environment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of agile or Scrum, but how we work is, you know that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time, because most of the time with these companies, the older way of working is you look at the elephant and you just try and eat it. But in an agile environment with your team, you would sit there and say, okay, guys, today we are eating the foot. Julian, are the pans ready? Boni, have you started taking the skin off the foot? You know what I mean? You break down your big project into small workable areas. That's the basic way we work in our day. It's all breaking down these tasks into small details, and they all contribute to the bigger project, which would be eating the elephant. We've already spoken about learning how to work in agile. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The next, thereafter, it's definitely going to be in your interest to learn how to code. And I would say anything like JavaScript for client-side stuff. You can learn some Python. Python is a great one because it's you should be using it quite a bit in in Linux, right? And that brings me on to that next point. Being familiar with Linux is crucial in DevOps, simply because in the end user game, Windows is king, right? But in DevOps, you work a lot with infrastructure as code and server side stuff, and the majority of that runs on Linux. So you have to be able to at least understand the fundamental, the foundation of what your code lives on, what you deploy to. You have to be able to navigate it and fix any errors that come up server side, which would most likely be Linux. So I don't think you would get anywhere without a solid foundation of Linux, a working knowledge of Linux. Now, and then when you mix that with coding, we'll say you do some Python coding, that will go a long way. And I know there might be one or two people that are saying, oh, but in the previous video you said what. That is true. You can start in DevOps without coding if you're strong in other areas like automation. What I'm describing now would be the ideal candidate. What it would make you never need to look far for a job, right? And in DevOps. And that would be having a solid foundation of Linux, understanding the principles and how we work with things like with Agile, learning
Okay.
how to code and learning how to look after your code and your and by that I mean you need to be so proficient in Git. Um, and the cool thing about that is, and I'd say that speaks not only to DevOps, but any sort of developer worth their salt knows and can work with Git flawlessly. It is crucial. So yeah, the
Okay.
fundamental skills would be like the thing is, agile is something that you can pick up along the way, but you definitely need Linux skills. Some even basic coding helps, right? And then learn how to navigate source control, which is things like I just said, Git. Um,
Mhm.
and then I'd say it's then you definitely need to start looking into automation. And I want you to like the the way to describe this is, let's say you need to learn once you're familiar with learning and knowing Linux, right? Then you can start. Then you teach yourself how to create even just a simple Bash script or a small Python script, for example. You get that running
Okay.
on your Linux. You get that running on your Linux machine. Then you need to look at automation. How would I find a way to deploy this app that you built on a server
Right.
without sitting there going install this blah blah blah? Write a program that can deploy your program automatically, because
Okay.
that teaches you like a basic understanding of automation, how to deploy things in the smallest amount of time. It's a
Right.
fundamental skill we have, because a lot of what we do is taking code from developers, putting it into production without impacting any of the clients, without having the site go down, and how can you push those changes out to scale. That speaks to automation and like continuous improvement. And so another thing that is quite important to mention is there's going to be a lot of things or quite a few things that I'm going to touch on that you need to know. But what you need to know as far as career progression goes, you won't just be sitting there in, like, let's say, in a help desk until you learn all these skills. Because once you've learned automation, like a little bit of Bash scripting, and you've got a fundamental understanding of Linux, you can go
Mm.
get a Linux administrator job. And in that job, you'll probably be exposed to needing to write a lot more automation scripts or programs or whatnot to keep the servers alive and whatnot. So you build on your skills as you go, but you must never not stop
Okay.
learning.
Okay, guys, please like and share this video. I know you are finding value already, and don't forget to drop some questions for Julian. My network is very icky this morning, so this is why my camera is off. I was not about to stop this interview because Julian is the main person here. Right now, we are talking about, we've mentioned the skills, and now we are talking about career progression. So, what I'm getting from you is the fact that you don't need to wait until you know everything, right? You
Mm.
just learn as you go. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, you'll learn as you go, but you got to make the jumps as well. Like once you have a certain skill, don't sit in your old job. Apply for that new position that with your new skills that you got. So as I said, move from, let's say, from a help desk to a systems administrator to Linux, and once you're a Linux administrator, I went from Linux administrator to junior DevOps engineer. What I mean. So you don't just sit there and wait until you have everything. You can start adding value and adding your own experience, or adding to
Right.
your own experience as you go.
Mm.
Then once you've achieved that, I'd say you have to get familiar with Docker, Docker, and
Right.
and then from Docker, if you can master deploying the application you built through something like Docker and can manage it on a tool like Kubernetes, that I would say is pretty much the golden ticket. Um,
Okay.
and but the thing is, Kubernetes, things like Kubernetes and Docker, they are not something small to learn. They're quite complex. Actually, I'd add Terraform in there as well. Very powerful stuff. But in order to actually kind of be able to navigate it efficiently, right, you have to have a solid understanding of, let's say, Linux, YAML, definitely YAML, sure, you would need some experience with a cloud as a cloud provider, or with a cloud provider, sorry, something like AWS. If you if you can get yourself a job as a Linux administrator somewhere,
Right.
that like early on in your career, that will give you a lot of fundamental understanding, especially if it involves a bit of networking. Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, and from there
Okay.
you can just straight up, yeah, I'd say definitely Linux as far as positions go, and you will want to look into Linux, even if you actually don't and you want to end up being a coder, being able to deploy your own application and actually understanding the infrastructure that your code is living on will benefit
Mm-hmm.
you. I would go as far as to say, even if you just want to code, it will go so far in your career if you can understand the infrastructure on which your code lives. Yeah.
Mm.
One thing I just do want to say, you guys, the people must go and look at AWS, Amazon's web services. You
Mm-hmm.
can actually play around there. You can bring up your own servers. You can deploy your own applications to the cloud. And if you keep it very small, like if you don't if you don't create an application that's like uh, that's huge. If you keep your services limited to something small, it's all free.
Okay.
So you can actually in your own capacity, you can go and study and deploy things to AWS, and it'll cost you nothing. So
Okay.
and yeah, because I can tell you now, if this is where the secret sauce comes in, with regards to this, is that, do you know how people get the job, right?
Right.
The people with no experience,
Mm-hmm.
how they land that job is not
Mm-hmm.
to come there and say, I've got some certificates, or I've got a certificate, or I've got a degree, give me a job, right? It's in your
Mm.
before that interview. If you sat there and realized, okay, this is a production. I mean, this is a company that builds websites for clients,
Mm.
it actually doesn't matter what they do. If you go there and say, listen, I haven't worked before as there's a junior position. I see you have 3 years. I don't have any work experience, but in my spare time, I have built this app running on Docker.
Correct.
Oh, I mean, it's in a Docker file. You actually show that you've done the work and you're capable of doing the work before you get to that
Right.
interview. It's like an audition. It's not an interview, it's an audition. So show them
It's an
why they want you.
audition, guys. That's the
Yeah.
word. It's an audition. Guys, please don't forget to leave some questions for Julian. You know, Julian is our friend, is friend of the village, so he will always come back to your questions and answer. Julian, you know, on our last interview, there was a bit of controversy there because you said you were not 100% qualified for a certain job, right? Your first job, actually. So, would you like to
Mm.
clarify that
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely can do that. Because I did, when I rewatched it, I did notice that, I made it sound as if I just walked into that company. Um, but so yeah, I definitely would want to clarify. You see, so how I got that interview, I mean, that I got the interview, but how I feel I got the job, right, was because I didn't have any experience. But what I did was I did a bit of research on the company prior to the interview. I was already working with Linux systems before, but I did some research and I saw that they don't have Windows at all. It is all Linux. And also they use Toshiba 6-axis robots. So that's what I knew going into the interview. So what I did leading up to that interview, I spent some time studying and practicing some more advanced techniques and capabilities of a Linux server. I became a bit more familiar with that. So even though I didn't have the work experience itself, like hadn't worked at a company, I was able to perform most of the tasks that they would require of me. So by the time we got into the interview, it was more a matter of, okay, this guy is new. He just came out of studying, but he in the technical assessment year, he's done it. He's able to do the work. And they
Okay.
kind of enjoyed that as well because they saw that, okay, this guy was a bit proactive. Yeah.
Um, I can't let you go without us, like, maybe talking about the salary range for DevOps. I know the last time
Mm.
we spoke about where you were, I think you gave us something between 80 and 100,000. I can't remember. Was that your range? Your salary range?
That sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. I want us to talk about someone who's maybe what can I expect when I'm still starting out, like when I'm a junior
Mm.
DevOps. And guys, again, this is not like a representation of the whole industry, but from your experience, what do you think
You know,
for a
one thing
junior
I've noticed
DevOps?
at the higher end, developers, I'm convinced, get paid a bit more than DevOps engineers at the top level. But as far as the salary ranges go across the board for experience, from what I've seen, they're pretty much in line. So, like a junior could be looking, depending on the company, you could be earning between 20, maybe 30 on the high end. Intermediate goes from 30 upwards till about 50. And so it's kind of in line with the junior to intermediate and senior like developer roles in terms of salary ranges.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. 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 No, that's fine. We are happy with that. Thank you so much, Julian, for your time. But I just want us to summarize what we need for DevOps position. Like, I know we've spoken about it, the entire
Mm.
video, but I just want us to have like a rough summary. What tools do I need?
Yeah, so I'll just go through the, I got them listed here, but there's 10 points. So I'll go through them quickly. So one, you need to master an agile framework. That's what we spoke about earlier with regards to like agile, Scrum, etc. Definitely get
Mhm.
some coding behind yourself. Um, Three, you definitely need to work on Linux, know exactly the ins and outs and how to navigate it, because odds are if you're in DevOps, the infrastructure that you're running on will be on Linux. If not,
Okay.
I'm going to reserve judgment there. Then you want to prioritize automation. Okay, and then it's
Okay.
container technologies, and after that you'd want to look at Kubernetes, which is an orchestrator of containers. Um, Definitely take a look at NoSQL databases and get some cloud experience behind you. That's nine. So
Mm,
the tenth one,
mm.
yeah, and the 10th one would just be mastering runtimes and monitoring and stuff like that, ensuring that the code that you have practiced to build and or your application is always up. It's yeah.
Mm.
I'd say that's a good summary.
Okay. I need to ask this question because I saw it
Mm,
on the part one. It was a frequently asked question. For those who don't
mm.
know the part one, we are going to pin it in the pinned comment. Okay, so that's where you're going to see the part one. A lot of people, Julian, want to know how can I raise my chances when I'm new with no IT experience? Okay, so I'm writing my CV. How can I raise my chances to get that opportunity to go to an interview? Because a lot of people, they have the certifications, but they're just not getting the interviews. So what can I put on my CV to raise my chances?
So I would definitely say if no one knows about this trick already, you definitely can't have the same CV. Um, you need to tailor your CV for the job that you're applying for.
Can you make an example about the IT support?
So sure, that is a challenging one, but the thing is, the way I see it, the jobs are out there. So it's a bit like you can go look on Careers 24. Again, things like offers in. You just apply until you get a hit, but just make sure that your CV is great and that in that interim, you don't just sit there and wonder about getting a job. You throw your CVs out and you get back to learning. You make yourself more valuable. And I know that sounds
Mm,
very like up in the clouds. Oh, that's something you can't change, but it's true. Um, you gotta upskill yourself because the odds are the new things that you're going to learn are going to become helpful. And also another trick is why it's so important to upskill yourself and build apps and all that in your downtime. So that if you get, let's say you're sitting in a coding interview and you don't have experience, you can, one or two things can happen. You can either show them the apps that you built, or you can add to the conversation. And because interviews are more conversation these days. It's not just the book of, do
mm,
you know what what do you call it, what a variable is or something like that. It's not like,
Mm.
well, they shouldn't be like that anymore. That's quite an old way of doing it, but you're supposed to add to the conversation. So let's say even if you don't have the work experience and they explain to you the infrastructure or the application that the company produces, you can ask questions and be like, oh, well, what have you guys tried using MongoDB instead? Because on these apps that I've built, I'm finding it's actually working quite well. It's about being able to
Okay.
contribute to the conversation.
And in summary, Julian, I think we should apply even if we don't have the experience. If it says 2 years experience, we
Yes.
should still apply.
Yeah. I'd like to see if there's other recruiters that watch your videos, because something I was told from a friend of mine that's a recruiter is that he said all the stuff, that requirements that you see on a CV, I mean on a CV, on a
Job spec.
job description, your job spec, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
is it's a nice to have. It's like if the person can
Yeah.
check all those boxes, that is the unicorn. That is the dream person that they want, but they know they'll probably never find that person. So they try to find
Okay.
someone most close to it, most close to their dream candidate in that sense.
Okay. Okay, guys.
Yeah,
We are applying even if we don't have the work experience, but as long as we have the skills, and then when we get to
to
the
do the job.
interview,
Yeah.
we add to the conversation, guys. Okay, Julian, thank you so much for joining us again. I don't know, maybe there will be a
Anytime.
part three. Guys, please leave questions. Julian, I don't know, where would you like people to follow you? Is it LinkedIn? Do you prefer TikTok? Do you prefer Instagram?
Preferably TikTok,
Okay.
because I'm actually kind of using that app. I'm going to be starting a series on something like on kind of like the subject matter we've been speaking about. I kind of want to, yeah. So
Okay.
let's just say TikTok.
Okay. So we'll
Yeah.
say TikTok. Okay, guys, we're gonna leave a profile here. Julian is gonna be displayed here and a link as well. Julian, say bye to the village.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah, this was fun, and I hope I clarified a couple of things. But as with the previous one, I'll be in the comments and stuff when this video is up to clear anything that gets
Okay.
brought up.
Thank you. Bye.